Так. Отлично, все, начинаем. Окей, сейчас запускаемся. Sorry. Alright, так, the link. I'm sorry. Share. Copy link. Telegram. No, it's not working. Hello everyone. Now we're gonna start our practice lesson. First, I will share the link everywhere for every participant could. Oh my god, Telegram is not working. Alright, I will send it on email. Via email. Just do. Alright. Just let me do everything. I will share the link for everyone could participate. And then we'll start. All right. And I will share here on Instagram as well. All right. So today I will start because the stream would be recorded. That's why I will start. And today we will work on the Ielts listening again because all the month we will practice your listening test and we will discuss how to answer on the tests correctly and how is it better to to read the questions in order to during the listening test you would understand everything. So first of all, we have started our listening on the previous lesson, and we have done listening test 1 from the Cambridge 18 practice test. And today we're gonna do the same. We will do 30 minutes listening first, then you will share with me with your answers. I will not disturb you. You will just do listening. And first of all, let's have a look at the listening part 1. This part is quite easy because here you will have 10 in part 1. In each part, you would have 10 to 20 questions. On the listening part 1, you would have 10 questions. Have a look at here. If you would like to get the band score 7 and above, that's very important to answer the part 1 section. All the questions you need to answer correctly. Because for having Ielts listening band score 7 and above, it means that you need to get more than 30 correct answers. And in case you have 40 questions and you need to get 30 and more in order to get 7 band score. That means that means that you need to answer on the part 1 correctly. And this part is the easiest one. It means that you have enough time to read the questions. First of all, you need to make sure that you can predict the answer. For example, if you can see, let's say, the preposition or the article, for example, if you can see the article a, for example, a something, it means that it would be noun. If you can see the preposition in or to or something, it means that it might be location, right? So let's have a look at here, at this part. Here you can see the table working at Milos restaurants. You need to make sure that you are reading the tasks correctly, understanding. This is the most important information, one word. If you will write 2 words and one of the word would be the answer, anyway, you will not get the score for this question because the task is to write 1 word only. So what does it mean? It means that you need to write just 1 word. And in most cases, it would be the main word, like verb or noun. Let's have a look here. Benefits, it means that here would be benefits. Like, for example, what might be the benefits in working in a Milos restaurant? So, for example, provided for all staff. Something should be provided for all staff. For example, it might be the let's say medical insurance, or it might be something else, right? Parking next to the restaurant or something like that. During weekdays at all Milos restaurants, something is gonna be beneficial during the weekdays. So you need to predict what might it be, what the beneficial might be for staff during the weekdays. Weekdays, it means working days from Monday till Friday. Question number 3, provided after midnight something. As I would like is I might predict that it might be transferring because after midnight is quite difficult to get to the house, right? And the restaurant, if the restaurant working till the midnight, it means that some kind of way they need to take their stuff to their home. So that's why the transferring might be provided. I don't know, I didn't do this listening test, so you will do this. The next, person specification. So here again, you need to predict what kind of specification must staff be able to do in order to work in a restaurant. So you need to read quickly the questions, like for example, must care about maintaining a high standard of something. So something should be on a very high standard and must have a qualification in something. Again, you need to predict. The next, next 6 to 10 questions, and again, you need to be very carefully in prediction, but you need to understand what type of word would be. Might it be the verb or noun or something like that? So for example, here you can see this sign. It means that here should be the number, right? Number. Starting salary, it should be the starting salary, then like let's say $10 or $15 pounds per hour. Here it should be the name, right? It means that they will spell if the name would be not easy to write, that they should provide the spelling. It means that you need to very quickly write the word correctly. But when you will listen to the first time, I mean, when you will hear the word for the first time, you need to write how did you hear, and then when the person will spell the word, you need to correct if you did some mistakes, for example. So you will be given the time to work at the questions, and it would be quite enough time for working at these questions. Let's have a look at the next part. Part 2. Here the question 11, 12, 13, 14, and this is multiple choice, and you need to make sure that you understand the task. Here's written that you need to put like choose two main reasons, so two options, A, B, B, A, C, D, and so on. So you need to choose two letters. And the next 13 and 14, again, two letters. So you need to, when you will see this task, you need to quickly have a look at the choices. And when you are watching and when you're reading the choices, the most important thing here is to understand the meaning. Let's say, for example, it has suitable geographical features. There is easy access to local facilities. So here, if you have a chance to highlight the words, I would recommend you to highlight them. For example, it has suitable geographical features. Geographical features would be the key words. So I would highlight geographical features. There is easy access to local facilities. Easy access, local facilities, right? It has good connections, with the airport, so good connections and airport. The land is of little agricultural value, so little agricultural value, and it will be convenient for workers, convenient workers. Then let's have a look at the next. The facilities for cyclists, the impact on the environment. So facilities, cyclists. Let's have a look at the task. Which two aspects of the planning housing development have people given positive feedback about? So what is the positive about planning housing development? What is a positive environment, right, for housing development? Facilities for cyclists, the impact on the environment, the encouragement of good relations between residents, good relationship, right? And the low cost of accommodation and rural location. So when you will listen to this part, you will hear most of these options, but just only two of them would be correct. And here you would be very attentive in order to understand which two of these options are correct. Let's have a look at the next part of section 2. Here you will see the map. And first of all, when you are seeing the map, when you're watching at the map, you need to see the first and the most important thing, that when you can see this on the map, it means north, south, east, and west. If you see this thing, it means that, or sign, it means that the speaker, during the explanation of something, he will use these sites. He will see that you need to go to the east, then you need to turn on the right, on the left, and so on. But he will use east, north, west, and south. Then the next important thing when you are watching on the map, you need to see the starting point, the point when the author will begin his speech, and usually it's under entrance point. For instance, look, here's written south entrance. Entrance, it's a place where the something is starting, right? And here's if you can see entrance here, it means that there is a west entrance, or that means that the speaker can start from this point. And here's key, housing. Housing, it means these things is a housing. So he will use, for example, the housing on the left or something. So you need to choose the letter when he will explain something. key, it means that the person will use the word housing, and you need to understand which housing does he mean, right? The next, you don't need to have a look at this very long time, because he will name these options, these words, one by one. And this means in Ielts, they usually, when they explaining the map, they usually um, like do the direction, they do exploration of the location of this things in order. It means that the speaker will explain first where the school located, where the sports center is located, where the clinic is located, community center. So every location will be named one by one, and you need to understand, you need to put letters here, H, F, D, and so on, but you need to listen carefully where these locations are. For example, if the speaker will start from the, like, well, if you will start from the main road, you need to go straight, then you need to turn left, and you need to go along the housing, and next to the garden, let's say, or something, you will see the school, and so on. But again, IELTS is always a prediction, so you need to predict again, but predict very carefully. So you will do that, and then you will see. The next part is part 3. And usually in part 3, there is multiple choice. And this is the hardest for many people, and for me as well. The hardest part of the IELTS listening section is the part where the multiple choice is using. So that means when you have a time, first you have time to check your answers here, but you don't need to check them here. You don't need to waste your time in order to check, because you are not listening anything again. And if you will just have a look at the letters, it doesn't give you anything. So you don't need to spend your time checking your answers. So you need to go there, the next part, and spend this minute for reading questions. So this is my tip. I read the questions first without answers, without these options. When I have 1 minute to check the previous part, I am reading the questions for the next part. Why do the students think the lake eruption of 1783 is important? What surprised Adam about observation made at the same time? According to Michelle, what did the contemporary sources say about the lucky haze? Adam correct Michelle when she claims the Benjamin Franklin, so I have read just answers. Then the speaker is telling me, now you have a minute to have a look at the questions, right? They are giving the minute to introduce the questions. So in this case, then you are reading questions and options. Why the students think the lucky eruption of this year, 1783, is important. And when I am looking at the options, I'm doing this. It was the most severe eruption in modern times. Most severe. It's a crucial point here. It led to the formal study of volcanoes. So formal studies led to the formal study. Something. So this student eruption, lucky eruption in this year, led to the formal study of volcanoes, and it had a profound effect on society. This lucky eruption, profound, it means deep effect on society, very important effect on society. Then next options, you are looking and reading again. What surprised Adam about observation? Surprise, the main word is surprise. It means that Adam will say the most, like the most thing I was surprised about, and then he will explain. So you need to listen carefully, and in most cases they will name all the options, but just only one will be correct. The number of places producing them. So for example, what surprised Adam about observations made at the time? About observations, right? The number of places producing them. number of places, many places, let's say. The contradictions of them and lack of scientific data to support them. Contradictions, it's contradicts, it's mean fighting between them or something like that. And lack of scientific data, lack, it means that not enough scientific information supporting them. Okay. The next, according to the Michel, what did the contemporary sources say about Lucky Hayes? So you need to read. You will be given to read the options again, and you need to read. I will try to be faster, right? Not to like take the 2 hours for our practicing. The next, you need to choose again 2 letters, but you need to understand the question, and you need to very carefully read the question. What 2 issues following the Laki eruption surprised the students? There was, in their discussion, they will explain or maybe describe 2 things that surprised these students, right? How widespread effect were, how long-lasting the effect were, the number of deaths, and the speed at which volcanic ash could spread speech, how people ignored the warning signs. I can predict. I didn't do this listening test, but I think that there are already 2 options that I think might be true, but let's say. And then just 3 more questions. You will see, choose 4, 1, 2, 3 for Ireland, Egypt, UK, and USA. You just need to choose just 4 options, right? What do you need to read in this case? This is more important thing that you need to waste your time reading on this, reading to these words. They will be in order. What do you need to read? It's the comments, options. This country suffered the most severe. So which of this loss of life, the biggest loss of life was in one of these countries? The impact of agriculture was predictable. There was a significant increase in death of young people, significant increase in death of young people. Animals suffer from sickness. This country saw the highest rise of good prices in the world, and it caused particularly harsh winter. So you need to choose, when you will listen, you need to choose this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. And the last part is part 4. Some people think that this is the most difficult part, but actually it isn't. Yeah, for me, section 3 is the most difficult when there is multiple choice. And let's see, reasons for choice, the subject. When you are doing part 4, you need to, first of all, you need to have a look and make sure how many words you need to choose. You need to write into these gaps. And then what do I usually do? First of all, I am watching at the headlines. That's very important, because when speaker will talk, he will emphasize on the headlines. He will emphasize your attention on the headlines. Pockets, reasons for choice of subject. So it means that there are something, but can be overlooked by consumers and designers. Rocket and man in men's clothes. So this is headline: pockets in women's clothes. Sorry, rocket. Pocket in men's clothes. Pocket in women's clothes. So here the speaker will talk about pockets. Pockets. Do you know what pockets means, right? Pockets. These things when we are putting our iPhones, mobile phones, keys, or something into the pocket of the clothes. And here a speaker will describe. I guess, yeah, he will describe the history, how people started using or doing, first creating the pockets in their clothes. And reasons, first, the reasons for choice of subject. They are something but can be overlooked by consumers and designs. Pocket in men's clothes, he will describe pockets in men's clothes, then pockets in women's clothes. Then let's have a look, and then that's it. So you need to be very attentive when you're listening to that. And I usually don't pay attention on the sentences like that. Women are very concerned about pockets. I'm not paying attention on it, but uh, I still understand that this is important point, because when you're listening to the speaker, you need to like his speech is flowing very gradually, and it means that he will say something about women were very concerned about pocket. Pocket were produced in pairs using something to link them, something. Pocket hung from women's underskirt and petticoats, and so on. So you need to read when you will be given the time. You will read carefully these options, and then you will do your best. I believe in you. So now we will start from the very beginning. What do you need to do right now? You need to write numbers from 1 to 40. I will give you a minute to write numbers on your piece of paper from 1 till 40. Okay, you can write 20 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 20, and on the other side again till 20. I will give you the minute and check how many people joined us today. All right. If you are here, please write something in the chat. And then if you're ready, you can write that you are ready. Okay. So I will not stop anything. Maybe just in case that would be advertisement, I will stop it. But then you will do from the beginning till the end. And then I will send you the answers, okay? Okay, if you're ready, let's start.
Agency about properties to rent. You will hear.
Test 2. Is it Cambridge 18? Second. Yes, Cambridge 18. We're doing Cambridge 18. Okay, Cambridge 18. We are doing test 2. Test 1. Now here's 10 2. Speaking. Okay, test 2, listening part 1. Working in a Milos restaurant, right? Okay, let's start.
Главный секрет, как понять все времена в английском языке для новичков с нуля.
To a man about.
Okay, now we will start again. When you are given time to read questions, just read questions.
Part 1. You will hear a woman from a job agency giving information to a man about work in a chain of restaurants. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
So I understand you're interested in restaurant work.
Yes, I've got a bit of experience and I can provide references.
That's good. I can check all that later. Now, Milo's restaurants have some vacancies at the moment. They're a really good company to work for. Lots of benefits.
All right.
Yes. They've got a very good reputation for looking after staff. For example, all employees get training, even temporary staff.
Oh, really? That's quite unusual, isn't it?
Certainly is.
And do staff get free uniforms too?
You just need to wear a white t-shirt and black trousers, it says here. So I guess not. But another benefit of working for a big company like this is that you can get a discount at any of their restaurants.
Even at weekends?
No, but you'll be working then anyway.
Oh, yes, I suppose so. Most of their restaurants are in the city centre, aren't they? So easy to get to by bus?
Yes, that's right. But if you have to do a late shift and finish work after midnight, the company will pay for you to get a taxi home.
I probably won't need one. I think I'd use my bike.
Okay. Now, they do have some quite specific requirements for the kind of person they're looking for. Milo's is a young, dynamic company, and they're really keen on creating a strong team. It's really important that you can fit in and get on well with everyone.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that. It sounds good, actually. The last place I worked for was quite demanding too. We had to make sure we gave a really high level of service.
That's good to hear, because that will be equally important at Milo's. I know they want people who have an eye for detail.
That's fine. I'm very used to working in that kind of environment.
Perfect. So the only other thing that's required is good communication skills, so you'll need to have a certificate in English.
Sure.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Okay, let's have a look at the current job vacancies at Milo's. The first one is in Wivenhoe Street.
Sorry, where?
Wivenhoe. Wivenhoe. It's quite central, just off Cork Street.
Oh, right.
They're looking for a breakfast supervisor.
That would be okay.
So you're probably familiar with the kind of responsibilities involved. Obviously checking that all the portions are correct, etc. And then things like checking all the procedures for cleaning the equipment are being followed.
Okay. And what about the salary? In my last job, I was getting £9.50 per hour. I was hoping to get a bit more than that.
Well, to begin with, you'd be getting £9.75, but that goes up to £11.25 after 3 months.
That's not too bad. And I suppose it's a very early start.
That's the only unattractive thing about this job. But then you have the afternoons and evenings free. So the restaurant starts serving breakfast from 7 a.m. and you'd have to be there at 5:30 to set everything up. But you'd be finished at 12:30.
Well, as you say, there are advantages to that.
Now, you might also be interested in the job at the City Road branch. That's for a junior chef, so again, a position of responsibility.
I might prefer that, actually.
Right. Well, obviously, this role would involve supporting the sous chef and other senior staff. And you'd be responsible for making sure there's enough stock each week and sorting out all the deliveries.
I've never done that before, but I imagine it's fairly straightforward once you get the hang of it.
Yes, and you'd be working alongside more experienced staff to begin with, so I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem. The salary's slightly higher here. It's an annual salary of £23,000.
Right.
I know that if they like you, It's likely you'll be promoted quite quickly, so that's worth thinking about.
Yes, it does sound interesting. What are the hours like?
The usual, I think. There's a lot of evening and weekend work, but they're closed on Mondays. But you do get one Sunday off every 4 weeks. So would you like me to send off your CV?
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1.
So as you remember, you're not checking your answers. You just go to the next part and read questions.
Part 2. You will hear a talk to members of the public about plans for a new housing development near a town called Nunston. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
Now you're given time to read again.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see that so many members of the public have shown up for our presentation on the new housing development planned on the outskirts of Nunston. I'm Mark Reynolds, and I'm Communications Manager at the development. I'll start by giving you a brief overview of our plans for the development. So, one thing I'm sure you'll want to know is why we've selected this particular site for a housing development. At present, it's being used for farming, like much of the land around Nunston. But because of the new industrial centre in Nunston, there's a lot of demand for housing for employees in the region, as many employees are having to commute long distances at present. Of course, there's also the fact that we have an international airport just 20 minutes drive away. But although that's certainly convenient, it wasn't one of our major criteria for choosing the site. We were more interested in the fact that there's an excellent hospital just 15 kilometres away, and a large secondary school even closer than that. One drawback to the site is that it's on quite a steep slope, but we've taken account of that in our planning, so it shouldn't be a major problem. We've had a lot of positive feedback about the plans. People like the wide variety of accommodation types and prices, and the fact that it's only a short drive to get out into the countryside from the development. We were particularly pleased that so many people liked the designs for the layout of the development, with the majority of people saying it generally made a good impression and blended in well with the natural features of the landscape, with provision made for protecting trees and wildlife on the site. Some people have mentioned that they'd like to see more facilities for cyclists, and we'll look at that, but the overall feedback has been that the design and facilities of the development make it seem a place where people of all ages can live together happily.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Okay, so I'll put a map of the proposed development up on the screen. You'll see it's bounded on the south side by the main road, which then goes on to Nunston. Another boundary is formed by London Road on the western side of the development. Inside the development, there'll be about 400 houses and 3 apartment blocks. There'll also be a school for children up to 11 years old. If you look at the south entrance at the bottom of the map, there's a road from there that goes right up through the development. The school will be on that road, at the corner of the second turning to the left. A large sports centre is planned with facilities for indoor and outdoor activities. This will be on the western side of the development, just below the road that branches off from London Road. There'll be a clinic where residents can go if they have any health problems. Can you see the lake towards the top of the map? The clinic will be just below this, to the right of a street of houses. There'll also be a community centre for people of all ages. On the northeast side of the development, there'll be a row of specially designed houses specifically for residents over 65, and the community centre will be adjoining this. We haven't forgotten about shopping. There'll be a supermarket between the 2 entrances to the development. We're planning to leave the 3 large trees near London Road, and it'll be just to the south of these. It's planned to have a playground for younger children. If you look at the road that goes up from the south entrance, you'll see it curves round to the left at the top, and the playground will be in that curve with nice views of the lake. Okay, so now, does anyone have any questions?
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2.
So you're not checking answers. You go further and read these questions and options.
Part 3. You will hear 2 geography students, Adam and Michelle, talking about a volcanic eruption which took place in Iceland in 1783. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26.
26.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
So, Michelle, shall we make a start on our presentation? We haven't got that much time left.
No, Adam. But at least we've done all the background reading. I found it really interesting. I'd never even heard of the Larky eruption before this.
Me neither. I suppose 1783 is a long time ago.
But it was a huge eruption, and it had such devastating consequences.
I know. It was great there were so many primary sources to look at. It really gives you a sense of how catastrophic the volcano was. People were really trying to make sense of the science for the first time.
That's right. But what I found more significant was how it impacted directly and indirectly on political events, as well as having massive social and economic consequences.
I know. That should be the main focus of our presentation.
The observations made by people at the time were interesting, weren't they? I mean, they all gave a pretty consistent account of what happened, even if they didn't always use the same terminology.
Yeah. I was surprised there were so many weather stations established by that time. So, you can see how the weather changed often by the hour.
Не покупайте обучение по таргету, пока не посмотрите наш бесплатный мастер-класс. Я гарантирую, что он будет полезен.
Right. Writers at the time talked about the Larky Haze to describe the volcanic fog that spread across Europe. They all realised that this wasn't the sort of fog they were used to. And, of course, this was in pre-industrial times, so they hadn't experienced sulphur-smelling fog before.
No, that's true.
Reports from the period blamed the haze for an increase in headaches, respiratory issues, and asthma attacks. And they all describe how it covered the sun and made it look a strange red colour.
Must have been very weird.
It's interesting that Benjamin Franklin wrote about the haze. Did you read that? He was the American ambassador in Paris at the time.
Yeah. At first, no one realised that the haze was caused by the volcanic eruption in Iceland.
It was Benjamin Franklin who realised that before anyone else.
He's often credited with that, apparently. But a French naturalist beat him to it. I can't remember his name. I'd have to look it up. Then other naturalists had the same idea, all independently of each other.
Oh, right. We should talk about the immediate impact of the eruption, which was obviously enormous, especially in Iceland, where so many people died.
You'd expect that, and the fact that the volcanic ash drifted so swiftly, but not that the effects would go on for so long, or that 2 years after the eruption, strange weather events were being reported as far away as North America and North Africa.
No, I found all that hard to believe too. It must have been terrible, and there was nothing anyone could do about it, even if they knew the ash cloud was coming in their direction.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
We should run through some of the terrible consequences of the eruption experienced in different countries. There's quite a varied range.
Starting with Iceland, where the impact on farming was devastating.
One of the most dramatic things there was the effect on livestock as they grazed in the fields. They were poisoned because they ate vegetation that had been contaminated with fluorine as a result of the volcanic fallout.
That was horrible. In Egypt, the bizarre weather patterns led to a severe drought, and as a result, the Nile didn't flood, which meant the crops all failed.
It's so far from where the eruption happened, and yet the famine there led to more people dying than any other country. It was worse than the plague.
Okay. Then, in the UK, the mortality rate went up a lot, presumably from respiratory illnesses. According to one report, it was about double the usual number and included an unusually high percentage of people under the age of 25.
I think people will be surprised to hear that the weather in the USA was badly affected too. George Washington even makes a note in his diary that they were snowbound until March in Virginia. That was before he became president.
Yes, and there was ice floating down the Mississippi, which was unprecedented.
Astonishing, really. Anyway, what do you think we should include next?
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3.
So you don't waste your 30 seconds on checking. You just go to the next part and read.
Part 4. You will hear a student on a fashion design course giving a talk about the history of pockets. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. Now, we've been asked to choose an aspect of European clothing or fashion and to talk about its development over time. I decided to focus on a rather small area of clothing, and that's pockets. I chose pockets for 2 reasons, really. We all have them in jeans, jackets, coats, for example. And even though we often carry bags or briefcases as well, nothing is quite as convenient as being able to pop your phone or credit card into your pocket. Yet, I suspect that other than that, people don't really think about pockets too much, and they're rather overlooked as a fashion item. It's certainly very interesting to go back in time and see how pockets developed for men and women. In the 18th century, fashions were quite different from the way they are now, and pockets were too. If we think about male fashion first, that was the time when suits became popular. Trousers were knee-length only and referred to as breeches. The waistcoats were short and the jackets were long. But all 3 garments were lined with material, and pockets were sewn into this cloth by whichever tailor the customer used. The wearer could then carry small objects such as pencils or coins on their person and reach them through a gap in the lining. Coat pockets became increasingly decorative on the outside for men who wanted to look stylish. But they were often larger but plainer if the wearer was someone with a profession who needed to carry medical instruments, a doctor or physician, for example. The development of women's pockets was a little different. For one thing, they weren't nearly as visible or as easy to reach as men's. In the 18th and 19th centuries, women carried numerous possessions on their person, and some of these could be worth a lot of money. Women were more vulnerable to theft, and wealthy women, in particular, worried constantly about pickpockets. So, what they did was to have a pair of pockets made that were tied together with string. The pockets were made of fabric, which might be recycled cloth if the wearer had little money, or something more expensive, such as linen, sometimes featuring very delicate embroidery. Women tied the pockets around their waist, so that they hung beneath their clothes. Remember, skirts were long then, and there was plenty of room to hide a whole range of small possessions between the layers of petticoats that were commonly worn. They would have an opening in the folds of their skirts, through which they could reach whatever they needed, like their perfume. Working women, of course, also needed to carry around items that they might use for whatever job or trade they were involved in, but their pairs of pockets still remained on the inside of their clothing. They just got bigger or longer, sometimes reaching down to their knees. So, the tie-on pockets went well into the 19th century, and only changed when fashion altered towards the end of that period. That's when dresses became tighter and less bulky, and the pairs of pockets became very noticeable. They stood out too much and detracted from the woman's image. Women who had been used to carrying around a range of personal possessions, and still wanted to, needed somewhere to carry these items about their person. That was when small bags, or pouches as they were known, came into fashion, and of course, they inevitably led onto the handbag of more modern times, particularly when fashion removed pockets altogether.
That is the end.
So this is the end of section 4. So here would be the end of section 4. Now I will tell you the correct answers, and you need to check your correct answers, right? And I will send correct answers on the Telegram as well, so you can check your answers. Right, the first is training. Let's have a look here. First, training provided for all staff. Okay. The next is discount. So discount during weekdays at all meals restaurant. Taxi, it would be the third, taxi provided after midnight. The next, must be prepared to work well in a team, then must care about maintaining a high standards of service. Here would be service. The next, must have qualification in English. Okay. Next, Wivenhoe, Wivenhoe. The next, seventh, equipment, making sure equipment is clean. The next, eighth, the salary, starting salary 9.75. All right. The next, 9, deliveries, maintaining stock and organizing deliveries. The next tense, no work on a Sunday. It means one in singular, right? Singular form, Sunday. Here, 11, 12 would be BE, or you can put EB, it doesn't matter, it wouldn't be a mistake. 13, 14 would be BC. The next, here 15 would be G. 16 C, 17's D, 18's B, 19's H, and the last 20 A. Okay, good. Then next, part 3 is the most difficult actually. 21 is C, 22, correct answer is A, 23, correct answer is B, 24, correct answer. 24, correct answer is B. 25, A. 26, B. 27, D. 28, A. 29, C. 30, F. I'm sorry, we are already here. 30F. So let's start from 37D, 28A, 29C, 30F. And last part, section 4, 31. Convenient. 32, suit. 33, tailor. 34, profession. 35, visible. 36, string. 37, waist. 38, perfume. 39, image. And 40, handbag. So these are correct answers. I will send you the correct answers on your Telegram. And by the way, for those people who didn't do this practice, I will send the screens of this listening. I will send the link and I will ask to do the IELTS listening practice and to share with the answers. And then I will share the correct answers. So for today, we will finish here. It have taken an hour. Next lesson, I think we will do reading. So we will do practice reading. I wanted to do listening again, but I'm afraid that it might be boring. So we will change, and next week we will do reading. And so we will change reading and listening. So you need to try and practice these two sections as most as you can, because reading and speaking, it's a different skill, you know, and I will share with you how to prepare for yourself for reading and speaking. But at the beginning, we will practice listening and reading because they are very more similar than next to skills that you need to practice, like writing and speaking. So I will share with the IELTS listening on Telegram. If you didn't do this practice today during the lesson, or if it was difficult for you to do during the lessons all these things, I will share the link and you can practice on your Telegram chat by yourself, and then I will share the correct answers so you can count how many correct answers you have got, and you also can share with me, all right, how many correct answers you got, the band score you got. Maybe you will know the approximately band score of your IELTS listening. So that's it. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for joining. If you need to watch everything, you can watch it again. I will share the link. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. You can write me and ask any questions. And if I can, I, of course, will help you. So thank you for the lesson. Have a good day. Have a good rest of the weekend. Bye. And